And you're listening to Blue Shirt
Underground Show,
the #1 Rangers podcast. Make sure you tune in and find out all the latest news. Let's go Rangers.
Blue Shirt Underground, motherfucker! Can't be as a Ranger fan. Can't be as a Ranger fan.
This is an unlawful gathering. This is an unlawful gathering. The truth is out there. The truth is out there.
This is the underground. This is new media. This is the underground. This is new media.
Ranger fans, report to the critical thinking hangar. Ranger fans, report to the critical thinking hangar.
And now here is the starting lineup for the New York Rangers. And now here is the starting lineup for the New York Rangers.
This is New York Rangers hockey. 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 This is New York.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Shirt Underground Show. Today is Tuesday, April 4th. We are about 2 weeks away from playoff hockey. My name is Jim, and as always, I am joined on the other side of the window by the one and only Eddie Geit. Good evening, Eddie. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic. I don't know when I've ever come on the show and said I'm doing horrible. Because I'm with you guys. I'm with you. I'm with the fans. I'm with my friends.
You're a very positive person. You never come on here, even when things have been at their lowest in Ranger lore. You have always come on here with a smile on your face and a song in your heart, my friend.
Well, I mean, I feel like that's the way. I keep my expectations low. So I'm never very.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
I mean, I'm constantly annoyed, but as far as affecting my real mood, I'm over that.
I am very excited to be here tonight. We are going to be joined at about 7:30 by former New York Ranger Corey Hirsch. He's coming on the program. He's going to talk a little bit about his book, about his time with the Rangers. If you haven't read his book, you should. Eddie and I have both read it in the past week. It's a compelling piece of. I don't want to say it's a great book because it's such a powerful topic, but it really is a great book. I mean, it's just.
I mean, I don't think you could have really written a book about the subject we're going to talk about, which I guess I can, let the cat out of the bag is what goes on inside the mind of somebody who's in the throes of an anxiety disorder and an obsessive compulsive disorder. And I really thought that he did, about as good a job as you can describing it. Now, we all know goalies are a different breed.
Absolutely.
I remember seeing a video on what Marty Biron used to do. He had a lucky piece of string. He had this and all that. He was like, he's like a voodoo witch doctor back there. With all the good luck charms he had and stuff. So it'll be very interesting to talk to the man and, it'll, like I said, it's a great book. It's not a book full of anecdotes about playing with this guy and all. I mean, that is in the book, but, it's about that subject. So,
right. It's not like a book like you'd hear from Emil Francis, where it's just, one anecdote, like Eddie said, after another. These are
right. Exactly.
There's a little bit of that. And he does he does handle, you know, his issues, I think, with a certain bit of humor and for certain candor. And I learned a lot about Corey. I learned a lot about mental illness, and honestly, I learned a little bit about myself reading this book. So I'm really looking forward to talking to him at the bottom of the hour, as they say. Meanwhile, we got a hockey team in a little bit of a rut. I know they're coming off a nice win in the nation's capital on Sunday, Eddie, but you know, we're in a little bit of a rough patch here.
Well, the bad starts are back.
Right.
I mean, let's discount the Capital game first of all.
Discount it, throwing it out.
Well, we'll get to it, but I mean, it's good that they won, but the Devils' loss on Thursday. First of all, that got the ball rolling because Ranger fans, and I've said one thing I've noticed over the 13 years we've been doing this show. We lose to the Devils, Islanders, his emotions run high. The comedy gold comes up from the people who give up when they lose. Team is done.
There's a little more rancor after those losses.
Yes, sorry. And then they're playing Buffalo, the Buffalo Sabres, who, to put it plainly, are atrocious defensively.
Yes.
I mean, they are one of the worst defensive teams in the league. The Rangers have all this top gun firepower. They've got everybody and anybody. I mean, they have an all-star lineup, a Hall of Fame lineup, as I said in Carolina.
Right. Well, you're not far off. I mean, you know, there's at least a few of them in there.
And they come out, El Lamo, just no push, no shots, get dominated by Buffalo. In the first period, they go down. What did they go down? 2-0? No. I don't know what the score was, but it wasn't good.
It was 2-0 at one point.
Yeah, and it was 2-0 in the Devil game in the first period as well.
Right. I said that. Yeah, and I said it during the Washington game in our game thread when the Rangers took the lead. I said it feels like this is the first time in 3 months where we haven't been behind 2-0.
I mean, this. It's very concerning to watch a team come out and lay a goose egg in the first 30 minutes of every game.
Against a bad defensive team and a goaltender making his debut in the NHL. You know, forget all the bouquets Joe and Sam were throwing at him all night long. This guy, it's his first guy. How do you not smell blood? I mean, they should have been swarming this kid from the go. And instead, nothing.
Well, the thing is, the Rangers are not going to change the way they are going to play. They don't care if it's Devin Levi or if it is Andrei Vasilevsky in net. We are stubborn. We are going to play the way we play. And we'll come back in the third period, make everybody happy, which they've done almost all of the year. As a matter of fact, I think undefeated going into the third period this year. So what you have, and I blame Gallant, Fester, Don Rickles, whatever you want to call them, especially in that Buffalo game. When they got off to that bad start, I said it in the game thread, he's got to call a timeout and rip into these guys. Not just for their sake and for your sake, for every Ranger fan's sake out there. I need somebody to scream at these guys. I don't care if they're tuning them out or whatever. Make a showing, a public embarrassing. Now, you know, you don't have to call them out like Tortorella called out Del Zotto.
Well,
But
he can call timeout there and let the leaders on this team speak. There's no shortage of veteran leadership here. I mean, Trouba does set a tone with this team. Call the timeout, say nothing. Let the players do the talking, or let the silence do the talking.
Right.
Sometimes that's better than words.
Good point.
But do something.
You cannot go a period with 3 shots on net. Maybe you can if you're the Columbus Blue Jackets or whatever, all these bottom feeder teams out there. But you're a team that's heading into the playoffs. You're setting a bad precedent. It's like last year's playoffs all over again. Get terribly outshot, Igor bail you out. That's the recipe. Now, they did rectify the situation against the hapless Caps. But when it counted against the Devils, and listen, they all count, but that was a 4-point swing.
Right.
Devils
came out in that game looking like a team that wanted to improve their position in the standings, and the Rangers didn't.
No. And once again, the Devils came out and did exactly what Carolina does. I wish I had like a telestrator right now. I saw Chris John at one of the Idiot Box show last Saturday. And I said, I keep seeing the same thing. Rangers love that transition chip up the board play. They chip it past the forward that's forechecking up to their forward, defenseman to forward, and they go from there. But if the other team brings down their defenseman to cover that guy that the puck is being chipped to, the Rangers have no idea how to break out of their own zone after that. There's no alternate plan. There's nothing. And the Devils did that in the first period of that game. They kind of got away from it, which allowed the Rangers to kind of creep back into the game somewhat. But you can't spend entire. I mean, that was total domination the Devils had. Absolute domination. And the Devils got to be feeling their oats like against the Rangers. Like, yeah, I know we're ahead of them in the standings, but these guys have been good for a couple of years now. They got all these guys at the deadline. Are we as good as them? And then they prove it right away. The Rangers, don't show up mentally prepared. That's for shit sure. And I feel like this coach makes no in-game adjustments other than switching the lines. I don't. Now listen, another 100-point season, right, Jim? So we
First
can't
coach
complain.
to do it in their history. First coach to do it in their history.
So,
granted, he does have the benefit of the loser point, but they haven't gotten too many of those.
Right. So the fan base, let's face it, they were. What did you say was the word you used before to describe? They were a little rancor. The rancor was running wild. This team stinks. The perimeter passing, and this guy stinks, and everything. I'm like, this team is a very good team. There's no doubt about it. They're gonna lose, and people could. What do they call that?
But I feel like they're only a very good team when they want to be. And it always seems to be like just when you think we haven't reached, then they come out with like a game like against Carolina in Carolina. I don't know. They always seem to pull themselves out of these things. And you just keep hoping that they keep doing it. But, these bad starts are they're so frustrating. I mean, they came out good against the Caps, but the Caps stink.
The Caps are bad.
Those are not your father's Washington Capitals. I mean, they stink. They're going to miss the playoffs. They had no Oshie in the lineup who
kills the Rangers.
Ovechkin looked completely disinterested in that game until there was a scuffle, which was 10 minutes left in that game. I mean, it was like nothing left in the game. game was over at that point. I mean,
let's face it, the Caps brought up Dylan McElrath at one point this season. So that tells
Right,
you their season right there.
I mean, the fair, even the air horn guy didn't show up at that game on Sunday. There were so many Ranger fans there. I guess Ranger fans figured, 1 o'clock game, if you live here in the New York City area, you can still get home by 7, 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. So might as well make the trip.
Now, are you looking for what I'm now going to term the Great White Buffalo, which is a Rangers 60-minute effort? The Great White Buffalo. Remember, I just want to see them play 60 minutes. I don't know if that's
not 40.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think many teams can play 60 minutes of entire, maybe they can. I don't know. Maybe the Rangers are just one of these teams. They're like the cardiac kids. But why? It shouldn't be that way. They have veterans up front. They've got guys from outside the organization. Patrick Kane, Vladimir Tarasenko. These guys certainly didn't make their careers on being comeback kids. They're veterans. And I really have no problems with either one of them. I just find that, you got your certain go-to whipping boys. No matter how many points they score, I got to hear Panarin's a perimeter player. Well, guess what? He weighs 160 pounds soaking wet.
Right.
He might as well not be. What do you want?
He's listed at 6 foot. There's no way that guy.
No way.
There's no way. Even on skates, I don't know if he's hitting 6 feet. He's like one of the smallest players I've ever seen, outside of Nathan Gerby and maybe Theo Fleury. I mean, he's small. And he's the one that, because of the way he plays, he makes the dirty goals possible for other guys.
Right. And there was a little back and forth tonight about that. And listen, he called it out. He said, we need more greasy goals. I understand it may sound on the surface kind of hypocritical. Since, he's not standing in front of that, but that's not the type of player he is.
Right.
And he's kind of reminds me of the guy on Aaron Judge on the Yankees. He's either going to strike out or he's going to hit a home run. So those bad passes, those cross-ice passes to nobody, it's going to happen. Just accept it and just realize at the end of the season, he's going to have over 90 points. And if they didn't have that 90 points, they wouldn't be in the playoffs. So you take the good with the bad. That's the way I look at it. So,
what's up, Frankie? How are you doing? Good to see you.
But is it frustrating to watch? Yes. And you know who makes it even worse to watch these games? Our beloved announcers. Oh, my God. I never seen an uproar from the Ranger fan base like I saw during that Ranger Buffalo game.
It's it's funny, when you and I first really started tanking on the broadcast 10 years ago, maybe even more so. A lot of people are like, oh, how can you say that? It's Sam. How can you say that? Now I think we've got more people on our side. Everybody's come around.
Yeah. Everybody is like, I can't watch this. I have to change. I got to change to the radio. At one point, after whatever ridiculous statement came out of their mouths, or just the complete hearing about the woes of the Buffalo Sabres, and this guy is really doing well, and if they would have had this guy, they would have been contenders. And I mean, it wasn't the first period, which is usually a love fest for the other team. Like I've said, and we've said on this broadcast, it's basically Sam has sat with the PR director of the other team and just wrote down everything he said. So he's got to get it all out in the first period. But this continued into the third period.
And part of the problem is that with these other with these 4 teams, there's 4 teams on this network now. So, it's like the one big, I've talked about this before. It's one big happy family. We're not going to criticize the Devils. We're not going to promote the Rangers over the Devils. We're not going to promote the Rangers over the Sabres or the Islanders. It's all one big happy MSG family.
I mean, did we need to see Devin Levi's family 400 times?
4 times? How many
400!
times was that? How
many times did they go to that? He was making saves that were wide of the net, and they were going to them. Come on.
What's with this kid taking a victory lap every time he makes a fucking save?
He's nervous.
You notice that?
He's a nervous goalie.
It's like Eric Hyden. He's got to do a loop around the net.
Oh,
back
Joe,
in the
he
goal.
doesn't stand still.
Get back in the goal.
And I have to say, what he faced 3 shots in the first net.
Right. They had.
It wasn't like
early
they were
in the third period. Early in the third period, they only had around 16 or 17 shots on goal, and they're talking about what a night he's having. Come on.
I mean, he didn't know it's his first game out of college. Yeah, I understand. The nerves are probably going, and, he's doing this. But let's not make him out to be Jacques Plante. Although later in the game, when the Rangers got some really good quality shots, he was equal to the task. Then tip your hat. Don't
right.
be, don't
He's
be
no Hardy Astrom.
Right. I mean, don't be loving all over him. God, it was disgusting. And Alex Tuch and Jeff Skinner, we knew he was going to get the freaking shot. That guy, I mean, he's had 2 back-to-back seasons. He makes a ton of money.
Yes, he does.
But he always scores against the Rangers. And then the Schmendricks that were scoring before him were like, who?
What's funny is we were back to just running back to the Devils game real quick. We were talking about last week when we were following the the Devils Islander game. We were keeping track of the score, and that Eric Hall has scored a goal, and you're like, oh God, that guy. And then he scores the first goal in the Rangers game.
Man. Eric Hall, how's this team going to beat us? And
Eric Hall and Oates.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, here we go. Every guy I say is a bum, they're going to score.
Right.
I was waiting for Zemgus Girgensson to score. One of the most interesting names in hockey, as far as I'm concerned. I don't understand. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's the MSG family of networks that we have to be kind to everybody. I don't think this goes on Sportsnet. I don't think Calgary announcers are extolling the virtues of Ottawa or somebody
or the Oilers.
Else. Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
We can ask Corey when he gets here. He was on Sportsnet with the Canucks, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's happening. These guys
You
won't
think the Montreal announcers are talking about how great Toronto is, or talking about who's hurt for the Maple Leafs?
No way. These guys, even Micheletti, he actually has more edge than Sam Rosen, which is not saying much. Micheletti will sometimes accidentally tell the truth. About, and it's not just that I want flowers and sunshine for the Rangers all the time. I want the announcers to call them out when they're playing bad.
Right.
Oh, Joe, only 3 shots. I would be like, why did they even show up? I mean, right. I would be sarcastic. The Rangers got to figure out a way. Gerard Gallant, you don't have to go out there and be mean about it and be like we would be about it. But you could be nice about it and say, listen, 3 shots a period ain't gonna win you a hockey game.
Right. And it's not even, I mean, it's not just that. I mean, there are times where they're just rambling on about something, where some player went to college, who some player's father was, and there's game action going on. And the problem with that, the reason for that is there's so many goddamn commercials squeezed into a broadcast that there's no time for filler. So the filler now comes at the expense of the game broadcast, because every stoppage is sponsored, every moment of the game is sponsored. You've got game action going while there's a commercial in the other half of the screen. Every penalty kill is sponsored by somebody. The power play is sponsored by somebody else. The pregame show is sponsored by somebody else. The intermission, the MSG 150, the postgame, the second intermission, the second MSG 150.
Power play.
The little dopey break that Valaket and Giannone do in between late in the third period. Everything is so sponsored and so many betting commercials and everything else that the filler that you would have during the breaks and the stoppages now has to take place during gameplay. So we got to hear about where a guy went to college, who he went to college with, where he went to high school. He went back to college to get his degree. Meanwhile, game action's going on. I want to know what's going on the ice. I want to know who's got the puck. I want to know what he's doing with it. I want to know who's fighting, who's going for a penalty. But you don't hear any of that. Instead, you hear, oh, I forget who it was. Oh, he finished up Harvard early, he came to play, and then he went back over the summer and he got his degree in economics, Joe, and this, that. Who cares? That is all filler. That is not, this is not a baseball game. It's not a baseball game. There's not 5 minutes to talk in between every pitch. And I know there's not 5 minutes anymore.
Right.
But you're not Gary, Keith, and Ron, where you got time for endless stories. There's a game to call, and it's a fast-paced game. And you're both 5 time zones behind it every night.
It can be very frustrating, especially with a team that's had so much success in the regular season. I think we were talking about the Rangers all the time, but apparently we're talking about the other team. And you're right. I find this also kind of, it irks me. And it shouldn't irk me because I'm not from Canada. At least the last time I checked, I wish I was from Canada. But they never mention juniors. They only mention college players. They never say from the Oshawa Generals, oh, he played his junior hockey there. They only mention like it's a novelty that Americans are playing hockey now. Like this is 1976 all over, 1980 all over again. Oh, the Americans are starting to emerge. This is the normal thing. There's a lot of percentage of players that come from United States. They're still treating it like it's a thing, like it's a novelty. Right. I want them to say, because you know what? They don't know. If you could ask them, for instance, let's say not Patrick Kane, maybe. Well, Mika didn't play. I'm trying to think of a guy who played in Western Hockey League or something. Let's see who they draft recently. Because the Rangers they always sign these guys immediately from another country. So I'm trying to think of now we know Keandre Miller played in the United States. Trouba was
well, you got Othman coming up through the OHL.
All right. Are they going to be mentioning Joe, the University of Minnesota joke? That's got to stop. That joke is
Joe's got to defend it. If he loves that state so much, why doesn't he work for the Wild?
Exactly.
Why doesn't he go open up the North Stars Museum? And he could just be the curator of that museum. He could talk about Lou Nanne and Mike Modano all day long. Dino Ciccarelli.
As Cutter reminds me, they have one of the greatest players of all time on their team, Patrick Kane. I haven't mentioned he played for the London Knights. Sam probably thinks it's London, England. I mean, give some props to Canada. Oh, he went to Harvard, the degrees. Oh, it makes the game twice. Like, it exacerbates. I have to watch the whole game experience is exacerbated by these two. And when they win, it doesn't enhance it. So you lose. You lose on the broadcast every night.
Well, I mean, sometimes when they've had big wins, Sam could still enhance a win. But it's just it's frustrating, and it's worse when they're losing because it's like they're rubbing your nose in it. I've said that 100 times. It's like they're rubbing your nose in it. Oh, look, what a game! He just whatever. It ain't gonna change. It is what it is.
Isn't. I mean,
it ain't gonna change.
I just wish, and I wish that they never mention contracts. It annoys me. They could just say, they're paying a lot of money for this guy and he really hasn't delivered, or never mention that. Congratulations to Filipino for getting a $4 million. Okay. Now, we didn't talk about that yet. Phil Heedle gets extended for 4 years.
I like that. Jen yells at the TV at the two of them as much as I do.
Christina said, shut them up. Can you announce the game? I said, why don't you announce? So she announced for a while, and then I announced.
So, yes, Filipino got a 4-year deal, right?
Now, instead of spending, you want the filler time, tell me what about the specifics of this deal? Tell me why, if you don't or you do like it,
right? Do
something like that. It's Filipinos really improved this game. He had that big scoring streak, but it looks like he's probably going to wind up with 15 goals on a third line. I mean, not 15. He's going to have over 20 goals. He already has it. Could get 25. Who knows? But at a really good, what I feel is a really good price. I mean, how do you guys feel about it? Jim, how do you feel about the deal?
I think it's a great deal. And I hope they can keep all three of those guys together. Because right now, that's our number one line. You talk about top six all you want. Right now, that kid line's the number one line on the team. That line is making something happen every game. And the Caps, I never thought I'd say it, but the Capitals had no answer for the third line in that game. How often do we have a line that just goes out there and plays as dominant as that third line? Kakko's got goals in consecutive games. He's up to 16. Lafreniere's up to 16. We got Heedle over 20 now.
And
Kakko and Lafreniere, they could get to 20. It's not likely,
both of them,
but it could happen.
They both got off to horrific starts. I mean, Lafreniere, I didn't think he was going to get 10 goals the way he was going.
Right.
He certainly turned around in the second half. My only concern with these three guys is that can they play with anybody else? That seems to be the problem. But other than that, and I feel like Gallant has done a good thing. Whenever the Rangers pull this no-show stuff, he hammers that third line. It's like, here, this is how you're supposed to play. Watch.
Right.
He should do that more often. He should say to himself, you know what? This is my first line for tonight. Guess what, you first liners? You're not showing up? Well, I'm going to hammer this line because they dominate. Now, it doesn't always result in a goal. Obviously, that's not the case. And sometimes Filipino will blow a monumental chance with a wide open net. That happens at least 4 times a year.
Right.
But he's got 22. So that third and fourth line are the only things I can count on every game.
Absolutely. Corey has arrived. He's checking his hair. I see him checking his hair in the swim, making sure he looks good. He's ready to join us. So, ladies and gentlemen, he's a former New York Ranger, Vancouver Canuck, Team Canada goaltender. He led them to a silver medal, and he made number 31 cool long before Igor got here. Corey Hirsch, welcome to Blue Shirt Underground Show. How you doing? Jim and Eddie with you on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I was sitting in another room like I was on the totally the wrong stream. So I was like, I'm like, where is everybody? You know, I'm just sitting there waiting. Like, what are we late? Like, what's going on? So my apologies for being late, but I did bring something today. I'm going to wear it for this
Look
this
at
interview.
this.
Oh, holy!
Look at
Oh,
this.
I'm getting the goosebumps. Oh my God, this is
So we're gonna throw this
fantastic.
on.
Holy
Like you said,
shit!
There's the number 31 right there.
There you go.
Wow.
Sorry for the bad luck for anybody that's wearing it now, but actually he's doing pretty good, isn't he?
Yeah.
Igor's
So let's
okay.
do this.
Look at that! Wow.
Right?
And
Corey,
gotta bring it
I'm
out.
impressed by this. I have to say.
we could end the show right now, and it couldn't get any better than this. I mean,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
The
Well, once
response.
a Ranger, always a Ranger, right?
That's right.
And Eddie and I were talking about it. You are actually the first Stanley Cup champion from the '94 team that has come on the show.
Yeah, well, thank you, but I was the third goalie. I'm not sure I can take the credit of what the guys played and did, but thank you. I got to drink out of the cup. And I was there.
There's a picture of you drinking out of the cup. That makes you
Beautiful.
a champion with me.
I love it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yeah. No, Rangers, like I still believe the colors, right?
Yeah. I mean,
You get
it's a
drafted
beautiful
by them.
jersey. It's a beautiful jersey.
No, it's yeah. These are the I don't have to say anything. These are
It's fantastic.
it means a lot to me. So all good.
Now, I've read I actually got the audio book because not that I'm too lazy to read. It's just my eyes can't deal with it at my advanced stage. So I like to be told a story. And I thought this book was compelling. And as a person who has dealt with this kind of stuff, I thought that you articulated what goes on in here. Just excellent. Because it's hard to articulate. I don't want to, I'm jumping right into it, but I thought you did a great job in articulating what you go through physically and what goes on in here. And Jim, he actually read the book. And
I did.
The only problem with the audiobook, I will say, is they butcher every hockey player's name. Like
That's,
when they
that's what I heard.
Adriana Coyne, it took me like 20 minutes to figure out who somebody was talking about. Adriana Jean. I'm like, who's a Jean? I don't remember.
I don't know. I asked to read it and they said, no, we have readers. So I'm like, all right, okay, well, but he did a really good job other than the name,
I thought
but I understand.
They wouldn't let Corey. They wouldn't let you read your own book.
No, I guess, well, they have people that they hire to do this stuff. So it's, what are you going to do? The book, I'm glad you liked it. Thank you. And
I really loved it.
Thank you for listening to it. It was, it was, something I always wanted to do. I did the Players Tribune article and then, ended up doing the book. But I still haven't read it. I'm not sure I ever will. So.
I think I can see why. And let me Jim, do you want to jump in it anyway? Because I don't want to.
No, go ahead.
I do want to say because I experienced all our experiences are different, but I experienced around the same time period that you did, but I'm 10 years older than you. And I found the similarities were just, I feel maybe the reason you don't want to read it is because it actually made me think about the time when I was going through it. And it made me a little, I don't want to say anxious, but it did give me like butterfly, like a little nervous feeling about when I was in that time. So
Right.
maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
Yeah. It's all my pain, written in pages. So why do I want to go back there?
Right.
That's one thing. But, before we do this, so I got my tooth fixed and I'm going to do this. So I've been wearing this stupid retainer for 2 days and I got a lisp now. So we're going to pop it out and we're going to go hockey style. Right?
Yeah.
This is my favorite
Let's do
show
it.
of all time.
Right.
This is
I'm sitting there, I'm
fantastic.
listening. I got a lisp. I'm like, man, I can't do this. So I don't know what I'm going to do about this thing. I guess for the next while, I'm just going to walk around with one tooth. So anyway.
Corey, I mean, after we've read we both read your book. You've bared your soul to us. What's a tooth at this point?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just
It's
hockey
just a
injury,
tooth.
too. I took a stick. I mean, it was road hockey, but it was still hockey. But yeah, as far as the book goes, yeah, you know what? Like I said, it's all my pain written in pain. So why? I don't need to go back. I wrote it for other people. Like I wrote it so that other people can see it and go, hey, that's what happened to me. Like you just said, like we've all been in that dark place at some point in our lives, and if you haven't been there at this point, lucky you, right? Because we've all been there. So I wanted to give an account on, for people, and people that haven't suffered from this stuff. This is what it's like, because when you're going through it, everybody else is like, well, I don't get it. I don't understand. Okay, well, this is exactly what it's like, right? So,
right.
And then I wanted to give information and education. The thing about all this too is that I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder, I'll be honest, because I wasn't taught this stuff in high school or middle school, right? And it's a disservice to our kids today, because if I'd have known what was going on, I wouldn't have ended up on that cliff that one day. I could have just went and got help and figured it out. But because I didn't know what was going on, right, and I wasn't going to tell anybody, and this, it almost killed me. So why are we not teaching this today to our high school kids? Why are we not teaching kids this stuff? And that's another part of the reason I put the book out there, was hopefully to educate people. And I hope that's what you guys got out of it as well.
And especially Corey, which you don't even touch on in the book, but this is just me. I know you have kids too, but this is how I have three teenage daughters, one of my own, two stepdaughters. But with social media, what social media does to these girls, and I'm sorry, but girls are just horrible to each other.
Oh yeah.
Young girls are horrible to each other. Guys, boys are still just boys. They'll just, they'll punch you in the mouth and then you get over it. Girls are just brutal to each other, especially on social media. And it's really amazing that we're not teaching more about mental health to kids in school. It should be part of health class.
I'm going to throw a statistic at you. So between 2007 and 2017, suicide rates for the ages of 10 to 24 went up 56%. All right. Well, when did social media come into play? Like, when did all that stuff come into play? Right. I mean, you got to watch what your kids are doing on social media. And you're right. It's emotional warfare. It's not like physical, right? I mean, someone calls you a name on something, you're a guy. Well, you go, okay, well, let's do this, right? You're going to end up going and probably getting in a fight, or get one of your buddies to fight somebody if they're bigger than you. But girls, man, yeah, it's emotional warfare.
Yeah, chances are the guys are going to beat the hell out of each other, and then it's going to be over. Most times they shake hands and walk away, but the girls just continue to berate each other, and they will pick on, they'll fixate on one thing and they'll just berate that. I've seen both of our older girls just in tears over something somebody said to them on social media.
Yeah, well, here's
what
I
understand. I certainly see, I could see where all these kids are just having these issues and, self-esteem and everything else. And it's just mind-boggling why we're not teaching more of it.
Well, here's what I say. I say this in my talks, and this is what I'm trying to spread is that you have two choices. You can use social media for a weapon, or you can use it for good. It's up to you. And
right.
I'm trying to get more people to use it for good, because there are some good things that come out of it, right? I did 5 games last year on TV with John Shorthouse with the Canucks. I did color. Usually I do radio. And I was reading Twitter. I was like, everyone was like, he's doing great, funny, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then one lady tweeted in, if I have to listen to Corey Hirsch commentate one more effing game, I'm going to stab myself in the face.
Wow.
And I was just like, ouch.
And is that now, let me ask you, is that the comment that you fixate on and not the positives?
Absolutely. And then I called my mom, and she said it wasn't her. Right? I was like, Mom, don't be saying that stuff. No, but yeah,
social media, Mom.
Yeah, it's social media, right? So I say use it if you can use it for good. We'll all be in a better place than if you use it for a weapon.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Though, Eddie and I have been doing this for almost 13, going on 14 years, and almost everybody's pretty into us. And then every once in a while, I'll just read one person say, God, these guys never shut up about this. And I'll just, that'll keep me up. I'll be laying in bed. God, what, do I have to not talk about this anymore? something stupid like that.
Yeah.
We always fixate on the negative.
And you do so many good things and so many positive things. Your show is fantastic, and you love the Rangers like I do. So it's it's unfortunate that some people, but that's what it's going to be. So I like Instagram in the sense that I can control the comments, right?
Right.
I don't know you. I'm not letting you comment. But on Twitter, I don't tweet anymore because it's just a place for people to take free shots at me. Like, you don't like, right. So I'm like, nah, so I
call it a cesspool of cowards.
Yeah.
That's really all it is.
It really is, right? I'm sure I'll be on Twitter talking about my tooth here in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, right. How dare he show up on the internet with taking out his teeth? No class, Corey Hirsch.
I love looking at it too. It's awesome.
Well, we were talking about.
I want to ask you.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to go back to you talk about being drafted in 1991. The Rangers draft you in the 8th round. Did you know had the Rangers expressed interest in you beforehand? Had you spoken to anybody from the Rangers?
So the year before I interviewed with the Rangers, they came to Kamloops where I played junior. I think it was Dave McNabb was the scout. And they took me for dinner and everything. I thought for sure they were going to draft me. Like I thought for sure, but I was at that point in time, I had to go in the first 3 rounds of the draft. And then if I didn't go, I was only 17. That was the rule. So they didn't get picked in the first 3 rounds. You had to wait till next year. So I didn't get picked. Okay. So the next year came around and I didn't know, right? I didn't know what was going to happen. But a scout named Lou Jankowski out of Calgary was a Ranger scout. And God rest his soul. Lou passed a while ago, but he drafted me in the 8th round. So it was the next year after. And I thought they were going to draft me the year before because they took me out. We talked. We had a conversation. Everything went good. But it wasn't. So it was the next following year that they took me and they drafted me.
And you talk about it in the book. You said your agent at the time told you just stay by the phone. There's no need to go to this draft. You weren't expected to go very high in 91, right?
No, it was in Buffalo. And then he's like, just stay home. And I'm like, you're an 18-year-old kid. Your hopes and dreams are. I'm like, right. Home? What? Like, I'm supposed to go in the first round. What?
Right.
But so then I got drafted. So then they brought all the draft picks to New York. All us young guys. And it was the first time I'd been to New York, was in Rye Playland. So we went up to Rye Playland and we were all there and they fitness tested us, all of us. I mean, I was 150 pounds soaking wet, right, as a little guy. But then, from there it was just, my first training camp was terrible too. I went to, we had training camp in Glens Falls and I was so in awe of Richter and Sammy St. Laurent was there, Mark LaForest. But anyways, so quick story. Roger Nielsen had you either ride a bike 26 miles or you could run 6 miles for your fitness test. So we went out to some park way in the middle of nowhere and I ran and the bigger guys would ride bikes. So I'm running, I'm doing my fitness testing and off in the distance, I see 2 guys off of their bikes. I'm like, what happened? Like, what happened here? Did someone fall off their bike and hurt themselves? Once I get up to in close, it's Sammy St. Laurent and Mark LaForest having a smoke off their bikes, helping some guy reel in his fish. And I was like, okay, well, I guess this is different than junior hockey. Yeah.
Those guys made it with the Flyers, right? I think they played for the Flyers and Toronto. I think LaForest may have been.
Trees, LaForest. And I remember them smoking outside the locker room in the periods. Right. I'm an 18-year-old kid. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Is this pro hockey?
Yeah. Well, even before you got in the game, I mean, it was very commonplace for guys to not even skate in the off season. They would show up, they, just drag out their hockey equipment and start, camp. I mean, they were drinking beer and smoking before they went right into the rink. So
and then Richter went and got in shape and ruined it for all of us.
Yeah, I know.
Like Mike Richter. He had legs on like tree stumps. It was unbelievable. Like he's just a specimen. And what a good guy. Just a great person. I love Richter.
Yeah. You said he was I think you called him the hardest working goaltender you've ever been around.
Oh, you couldn't.
You said in the book.
You could not work him. So during that playoff run in '94, even in practice, I never got in the net because Richter, you think would take some days off in that. Not a day, right? So, and you'd think that he'd get out of there early. No, he was there right till the end every day, even in the playoffs. Like he was a machine. He really was. And still one of my favorite goalies of all time. You know, it's hard to play with a guy that you kind of idolize.
Yes.
So when did you were with Binghamton in '94 and you got called up? Is that correct? Do I have that right?
Yeah, I went to the Olympics, came back, got sent to Bingo, and then got called up for the playoffs because Bingo didn't make the playoffs.
So the Rangers called you up at the beginning of the playoffs for the Islanders series to be the emergency goaltender?
Yeah, me, Barry Richter, Swedish guy. Matthias Nordstrom.
Peter Anderson?
Nope, Matthias Nordstrom.
Matthias Nordstrom.
Me, Joby, and Joby Messier, Barry Richter, Matthias Nordstrom. I think we were the 4 that came up. And then Matthias went on to have a great career.
Yeah, he did. He did a very bad Ranger trade. I don't want to talk about it.
And then, so if you look at that playoff series, though, the finals, we played the Islanders in the first round, Washington, which was like a 30-minute flight up and down, second round, Jersey is a bus ride in the third round, and then Vancouver in the Stanley Cup Finals. Vancouver played Calgary, Dallas, and Toronto. Like the miles that they put on compared to what the Rangers put on, right? And Vancouver gave the Rangers everything they could handle.
Oh, absolutely. Gave me all I could handle.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
But from reading the book, this is kind of all of a blur for you. Like you're basically standing on the ice, just watching Richter and Healy. You're not doing anything. And the ice was kind of your salvation. When you played, that was the only place that you didn't feel, all these negative feelings.
Yeah, I was, I was just getting hit with waves of panic attacks and just trying to hide, right? Like stay out of the way. Like I knew what was at stake. So I was trying to stay out of the way. But in the meantime, I can't tell anybody what's going on. I don't even know what's going on, right? And I'm having panic attacks. And I remember just going to the rink every day, just trying to get through it, just trying to, and I never, thank God I didn't have to play, but, for such a historical run, like I wish I was more of a part of it. Like I don't have regrets about it or anything because it's made me who I am today. But yeah, it was, that back then you didn't say anything, man. You didn't tell anybody,
It's like we're talking about, how girls have it really tough. Men, especially, because we have this machismo thing, and now you're in a sport where everybody is constantly proving or trying to prove how much of a man they are.
Yeah.
And you're stuck in this position. This is what really intrigued me about this is also your livelihood. You're going to make money. And the stigma that this carries, if you out yourself at that time, it's going to impact you financially, your girlfriend, your family, what have you. And again, it really hit me hard. And when I said, this guy's a real warrior because he came out of it okay. And, there was certainly a lot of bumps. That's when I thought it was over. And I'm sure just like you, boom,
Yeah. Well, you know what? It was, I didn't go to the ticker tape parade. Who misses a ticker tape parade, right?
I didn't. I was there.
Right? Like, so that's one thing that I do wish. But yeah, you didn't tell anybody, right? They would have buried me. And not because out of ruthlessness or anything like that, just because they wouldn't have known what to do with me, right? And heaven forbid your goalie has a mental health issue. They'd have been, back then they'd have shooed you away. But
you'd have been labeled a head case. You'd have been labeled a head case, and nobody would have touched you.
Yeah, no, and even when I did finally get help, I didn't really tell anybody what was going on even after that, and I did end up getting kind of buried in the minors after that. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay because it led me to this path. But we're in a better place today, right? We're in a much better place. But players are still reluctant to come forward. And I don't blame them. It's so competitive. You got guys, and you just don't know how someone's going to react. Some teams are good, some teams aren't. But I will say this, the NHL does have good programs. They do a great job, but you can't force guys to use them.
Right.
Do you know, speaking of the NHL and how they deal with this, do you know how they compare to the other major sports?
I really don't. Yeah, I think the NBA educates their coaches a little better. I do think they have great psychologists, psychiatrists on hand. Each team does. They have Dr. Shaw, who's been fantastic. They do have programs. I don't think they have. I'm not sure if they have I think they should have mandatory education in it for the coaches, for the players. I'm not sure that that's in place. I know the NBA, some other leagues do. So I can't really compare. But I do know they do have help available if people want it.
I know it seems like in some ways the NHL leads the pack with some things, and then there's other things where they're way behind. But so I was just curious if you knew.
No, no, go ahead, man.
No, that's all right.
Just the NHL does. They do great. They do a lot of good things. I mean, the game's taken a hit character-wise in the last little while, but the game is a great game. I mean, we have to weed out the people that have taken advantage of it inside of it. But the game is a great game. Like, people ask me if hockey did this to me, and I'm like, hockey saved my life. Like, hockey taught me the skills I needed: resilience, courage, things to keep going when things are tough, right? Like, the game gave me the skills to stay alive, really, and keep going. Right. So it's not the game. The game is a great game. You know, we got to weed out some of the people within it that have taken advantage of it.
I'm tempted to ask you who these people are, but I don't want to jeopardize anything.
Well, I think some of them have already been some of the stuff that's been coming out, it's not really anyone in particular, but, the culture of hockey has taken a bit of a hit in the sense that, younger guys.
Team Canada's stuff going on with Team Canada.
And that stuff needs to be cleaned up, no question. But, this is where we got to, and to me, this is where you have to get to the kids early, right? Educate them, all those things, and do the right thing.
There's, I don't know if you saw or heard the story of what's going on with the Harvard women's program that's going on up there.
What's going on there? I haven't heard. Yeah.
There was a big story in Athletic about a lot of hazing and just a really toxic environment that the coach there has created, and a lot of damaged women playing in that program. And
and that's what I'm saying. The game, great game. People within it that have done things like that, we got to weed them out, right? But don't blame the game of hockey. It's not the game of hockey. I mean, it's people within it that, like I said, the great game. It teaches kids all the skills that they need. I tell people, not to be afraid to join hockey. Hockey's a great game.
There's no doubt. Let's
weed out those people that do things like that. Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to give too much of the book away, because I'm encouraging everybody that listens to us to buy this book and read it. And we're going to give one away tonight while you're on the air. I have a trivia question about you that I want to see if anybody will know the answer to. And I'm curious to see if you know the answer to the question. But we'll do it in a few minutes.
Everybody's going to they're going to be on their computers. They're going to Google the answer.
Jim, I'll give the book away. I live at the end. We're good. All right. Sorry, I gave it away.
I like the fact that a couple of times in the book you say something like, "So I'd like to tell you that everything went great, and I'll end the book here," right? But that's not that's not how it ended.
It's a lifelong process. Like, I got to watch myself, right? Like, I got to take care of me.
So when the Rangers have Game 7 against the Devils, they go into overtime. Yeah. Mateau scores the goal. The Rangers are going to the finals, and you're in such a bad place because now you've been dealing with this for 3 weeks since, as you refer to it, your brain broke, and you're actually thinking you say it in the book. So I'm not telling any tales out of school. You were hoping they'd lose, so that you could get the hell out of New York City, and you were hoping that going home would fix your problems. And the whole city is partying because the Rangers are going to the Stanley Cup, and in your mind, it's another 2 weeks of hell. I just can't. Yeah. As a kid, you grew up in Canada. This is what you dream about your whole life, and then it's here in front. I just can't imagine what that's like to have that in front of you, and you want no part of it.
Yeah, and it's
just awful.
That goes to show you how bad it was, right? Because I mean. I feel bad for that, but I was like, that's how sick I was. I just wanted to go home.
And I mean, that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's in like the first 10 pages of the book. I mean, when I first sat down and started reading this, I'm like, wow. he drops the bomb early, and I was just like, oh, man, that's just,
then once we won Game 7, I'm like, we better win the goddamn Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
Right?
like-
I'm going to stick around for another 2 weeks, and I'm obviously at the end of it, I'm glad that the Rangers won and that I got to be a part of that, But when you're sick like that, man, nothing matters. Nothing else matters,
Right. And then the Rangers win the Cup, 7 games, and the parade, and you're on the first plane. You head back to Calgary. Do you tell anybody in the organization? I'm going back to Calgary. I'm not sticking around for the parade, or were you just?
I blew out of there.
You were just gone.
I had a flight booked like 2 days prior. As soon as we went to Game 7, I knew it was going to be over. Like I had a flight booked because I thought maybe if I went home, it would all go away, right? Like maybe it would be better. But it didn't, of course. But then it made me look like I don't tell anybody, right? I'm not telling, but it made me look like a disgruntled player is what happens.
Right.
And that's unfortunate, but it's not their fault. It's, and that, I wish I could have stuck around for it. And that it breaks my heart that I couldn't. And it just goes to show you when you're in that state, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter if you have Olympic medals, Stanley Cups, right? Like I was desperate. It was survival. Like it was survival at that point.
Right. Just it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care, right? It doesn't care if you have $1 billion or $5.
I mean, you want to flee to what quote unquote safe space is.
Yeah.
Where your home, your apartment, wherever it is, which is so illogical that you're going to be safer from your thoughts. But you are, in a way, you kind of can control your environment. Because there was a lot of times you mentioned in the book that, you would be very cool, make excuses to players who want to interact with you. And they probably were like, this guy's a dick. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Better word. Well, yeah. But, so I'm sure there was a lot of that. But I'm sure they brought you up and were like, let's give these young guys an experience of what the Cup is going to be like. And then, boom, you're out of there. Like, I'm not impressed. You won a Stanley Cup first time at 40,
Well, that's what it looks like, right?
Right.
And you're trying to explain your behavior because you don't want to tell anybody that you have a mental health issue, right? Or what's going on. So now you're trying to explain why you were late, You're just making up a bullshit excuse because that's what you do, right? You're trying to hide something. So then it just snowballs, right? And you look like a bad teammate.
Meanwhile, you're just thinking you're from a small town, and you're just thinking, that if you can just get out of New York City and get away from all of this, that you're going to feel better because you guys the Rangers are on this incredible ride. They're expected to win the Cup. New York City, it's transcending sports. It just keeps getting snowballing. And meanwhile, you're going through this, and I can certainly understand where you think that just getting away from New York City was going to solve at least some of your problems. And then
you're desperate, right? Like you're
right.
like, well, what? You don't know what's going on. So maybe if I get home, it'll go away,
Right.
And then from there, I ran to Kamloops, right? Because you're running from your own brain, trying to figure out what's going on, and maybe it'll just go away if I get somewhere. You're trying to change your environment, you're trying to do anything. Like I was desperate at that point, right? And it's hard to. It was actually hard to hear you say that I wanted the Rangers to lose because I bleed Rangers colors right now. I still do because I love them. And it's like, it just makes sense though. It's a great way to say how bad a shape I was in at that point.
Right. And by the, you read that, and like I said, that's in the first, probably 10 to 15 pages of the book. And you read that and it's like, wow, but then by the time you get to the end, I'm thinking to myself, man, if I would have been rooting for the Rangers to lose too if I was in that situation.
It's self-preservation. I mean,
right. I mean, you're
thinking in your mind.
Like you said, there's no other way to put it. You're desperate. I mean, what are you going to do?
And playing for the Rangers is like playing for the Yankees. It's like it's the greatest thing in the world, right? Like everything's at your fingertips, like anything. That was tough. And I still look back at those and wish that I could have played more games and played more for the Rangers because, like I said, it's like playing for the Yankees. Like Madison Square Garden is the best building in the world. It really is. To this day, never played in a building that was better than that. Like it's electric. And I tell people you have to go to an event, a game there, anything, right? I mean, it's just, and that's the one thing that I do think when I look back that I wish would have happened more is that I wish I would have got to play more games with the New York Rangers because, like I say, it was the coolest place in the world.
Yes. And as I was reading your book, well, listening to your book, I love hearing some of the names you were throwing around. When you started talking about Don McLeod, Smokey McLeod there, and the Calgary Cowboys, I was fascinated with the WHA when I was younger. And when you threw his name around, that's what inspired you to be a goalie, right?
Yeah, watching him play, and then Mike Palmatier, watching
another guy.
Yeah, Ken Dryden. Back then, it would have been John Davidson playing for the Rangers and
Cam
Cheevers,
Blazer, right?
Yeah, those are the guys why I became a goalie. Like the goalie masks were my favorite. Like I love the gear. I love the scary masks and all that stuff. I've got a mask that's in the Hall of Fame right now with Vancouver. It's the Psycho House mask.
Yes, I've seen it. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. But one of my favorite. What's that?
I think we might have a picture. There it is.
Yeah. So that became iconic. But you guys probably never seen this one. So
the Hitchcock silhouette is just brilliant.
The painter was incredible.
That's amazing.
I had one that I liked better, which was in Binghamton before I got traded. I had one with King Kong climbing up the side of the Empire State Building.
Oh, that's
Corey. I read about that.
Yeah.
You talked about that in your book.
Favorite.
I could not find a picture of that mask.
I think I wore it for
not
like
find a picture of it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question, since I'm glad you mentioned goalie masks, because I wanted to ask you about that too. You talk about being a goalie mask connoisseur. Do you have a personal favorite, like over the years? Who was like, what are your favorite masks?
Yeah, one of them. I'd have to think. Like I say, I like the old school ones. Like the guy named Gary Bromley had one in Vancouver. It was a skull, and it's the coolest mask ever. Warren Skorodetsky had one in Chicago, but Gary Bromley it was so cool. If you can look it up and find it, he's wearing it. That was one of my favorites. Like who was it? Was it Wayne Stevenson had one? I think he had
the
Empire
fly
State Building. Yeah.
No, Steve Baker had, I think, the Empire.
Steve Baker
had the
Empire State.
Wayne Stevenson was with the Flyers, wasn't he?
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
So all those old goalies,
I liked Wayne Simmons's. He had the snake, like the.
Oh yeah.
That was sick. I love that.
Was that when he was playing with was it the Seals back then?
I think it was.
I'm dating myself, right?
I know. But
Rogie Vachon, they used to cut the eyes out. Yeah.
Have you ever seen this one, Corey?
No, who is that? I've seen that mask.
That is JD.
Is that JD?
John Davidson, the Lone Ranger mask.
That is pretty cool. I gotta say, that is pretty cool. Right?
Eddie, who broke that mask again? I forget.
Think it might have been Vaclav.
Was it Bossy? Was it Bossy or Trottier?
Only lasted 14 games.
Right. That's an awesome mask, though.
Well, we know it's not Potvin because he sucks. Right? I just had to throw that out there. You know what? After winning, like not having to hear the 1940 chants after winning was probably the best thing about that. So obnoxious going into Jersey and hearing that, but what great rivalries though. Like I'm so excited about this series coming up with Jersey and the Rangers. Like I'll be watching every game, every minute.
It should be a war.
Yeah.
I got a chance to talk to Bernie Nichols about that series. He was on the Devils. He believes that they should have won. That they were better than you. They were better than the Rangers.
In 94?
In 94, yes.
No, not a chance.
When he whacked Kovalev in the face while he was down. I said,
did he say there was goaltender interference?
Yeah. You know what? Kovalev came down to the minors. You guys Kovalev sent Kovalev to the minors.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, at one point, like for a month. And he was pissed that he was down there. We're in Utica, and he gets the puck behind our net. He skates through all the Utica players, gets in on the goalie all alone, doesn't shoot, comes back all the way into our end, does it again, and then dumps the puck in the corner and changes. That's Kobe, right? He's pissed that he was down there, and he was so talented that
wow,
shouldn't have been down there.
I
Yeah.
I remember in the big club one time he didn't come off for his line change.
Yeah,
That was
Keenan.
during the playoffs.
Keenan was really pissed at him. I remember that. Yeah.
And then
Right.
sat him on the bench for the rest of the game. But I mean, what a talent he was. You know?
He really was a super talent.
And nobody talks about Zubov as much as like Zubov.
We talk about him.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy he's a Hall of Famer, and the Rangers gave him away for nothing.
I remember I got sent down to the minors from New York, and Zuby was with me, and he got sent down too. And we're bombing down the turnpike, and he asked me if he could light a smoke, and I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" He lights a smoke in the car, and I'm like, "Roll down the goddamn window." You know, Zuby, he was smoking. This guy's like one of the best athletes, and yeah, there's lots of those stories like that. Good guy, I loved him. What a great human being he was.
He's one of my all-time favorites. The shot, he had such a tremendous shot and a playmaker like you wouldn't believe.
Still to this day, one of the hardest shots, like his one-timer, you know, like unbelievable. Him and but the best, I mean, Leachy in that 94 was incredible. That was the best I'd ever seen. Like he dominated games.
Yeah.
What an incredible, like what a player he was, right? I mean, amazing run. So I still do remember some things. You know?
See? Yeah, pretty good.
You remember plenty.
Plenty.
All right, so we'll take a quick second here. We'll give away a copy of Corey's book, The Save of My Life. I'll buy you a copy either on Kindle if you read it on your Kindle or Apple Books, or I'll get you an actual copy of the book. Here's the trivia question. And Corey, if you know the answer, don't answer right away. Corey Hirsch had 3 assists in his NHL career. Who scored the goal that Corey Hirsch got his first assist on? His first NHL assist. Googling.
I don't
on the honor system. Corey, do you know the answer?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I'm thinking I might, but I actually don't. But I think I might know the game.
It was not Leach. The answers are coming into the chat room.
It was a Ranger. Yeah. Was it in Detroit?
Not a Ranger. It was not a Ranger.
All right.
What? Huh?
I thought maybe in Detroit. My first NHL game was in Detroit. But I don't know. That's a pretty good question. It's something I don't even know. Does anybody
Not
got
Doug Waite, not Nemchinov, not a New York Ranger, not Bure.
It's not Bure, huh?
Not Pavel Bure.
It was
McGillney?
Sean Antosky. I think so.
Not Sean Antosky.
Good guess,
And
though.
not Sergio Momesso.
All right. I'm trying to think of who that might be.
Oh, did Chris get it?
Chris did not get it. It
It's
is not
Mark
Messier.
Messier either.
No, Mess played in Vancouver a little bit later. I'm just going through the names in my head. Jim Sadlak?
It was actually, if I'm not mistaken, it was your second game with Vancouver.
Okay.
And it was a 6-4 loss to the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh,
Not Martin Gelinas.
That was a horror
Not
show.
Trevor Linden.
Did you listen to the book that game?
never played good against Edmonton.
Not Steve Larmer.
So it would have been, well, maybe, was it an Edmonton Oiler? Did I cough one up? Standing behind the net in the corner?
Martin
Nope.
Jelena? No.
I'm trying to go through that team. Was it Russ Courtnall?
No.
Cliff Ronnie.
Nobody's-
Let's go through the names.
Jeff Brown?
Brownie?
No, that's not the answer. Adrian Aucoin? No.
Not Adrian Aucoin.
Wow. They're guessing.
Tough question.
Corey, there's literally like
You're making them earn it.
There's 2,000 people in this chat room.
I just posted a chat. Corey, can you read that? Do you see that?
Can, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Ah, you talked about him in the book.
Good dude. Really good friend of mine. Yeah. I won't give it away, though.
I know.
Coin
Well,
Linden, not
you'll-
Naslin, not
You'll have
Nathan
to read the
Lafayette.
book to find out.
Nathan Lafayette went the other way in the trade. He was a Ranger when Corey was a Canuck.
Yeah, we got traded straight across in the most even trade in NHL history.
Now, I think that we needed you. We didn't need Nathan Lafayette.
Nobody's
Plus, he
got it.
played on the enemy in the playoffs. I didn't like that.
Should we give a clue?
I'll let you give a clue. You want to give a clue? Give a
Yeah,
clue.
you give a clue.
Terrified of flying.
John Madden, ladies and gentlemen.
And not the one that played for the Devils.
No.
And it was publicly known he was terrified of flying. So that's why I say that.
I will say
Ben Burnley.
This is a man who is in, I think he's in the over 70 goal club.
Very possibly.
I
believe that is correct.
With the, I won't say.
Let's see if we can give let me see. We give another hint. He played on 2 teams that the Rangers faced on their way to the 1994 Stanley Cup. He played for 2 of the organizations.
Cutter has gone it from Kitchener, Ontario.
There you go, Jeff Diamond. Oh, Jeff, you just got it
Jeff
in.
Diamond from Kitchener, Ontario. You win.
McGillney is correct.
Rather than you guys do it, you get me his address and I'll send him an autograph copy.
Oh,
that's very nice of you. He's in Canada too, so
Let's do that.
I'll
send him an autograph copy of my book.
That's very nice of you. Thank you.
Out of all our listeners, he will love that the most.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely.
We had to dig for it, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, he is a
trivia question, not easy.
And he's a trivia whiz, and he wouldn't Google. So I know it came to him. He wouldn't cheat.
Alex McGillney, but he's just one of the greatest people. I love Alex. True story. So he became a member at a club in LA, a golf club, very prestigious. And there was only one locker. This club is, I won't say what country club it was, but he got O.J. Simpson's locker.
Wow.
They gave him O.J. Simpson's locker after they booted O.J.
Was the other glove in that locker?
An empty pair of shoes.
We were like,
some shoes and a mask and the other glove.
He found the glove. No, it was pretty.
That's
we
pretty
asked
weird.
him about that. Pretty good. Yeah,
that's pretty weird.
Great golfer, like really good, like good player, good golfer.
When you say most hockey players are really good golfers, like that seems to be their go-to sport off the ice.
Yeah, well, you haven't seen me golf, so apparently. No, I love golf. Yeah, I think it's because it's the mechanics are the same, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, yeah, most guys are. Plus, like a lot of charity stuff is golf tournaments in hockey. So you want to go there and you want to help out and you want to at least be decent, right? So most guys are. I mean, some guys don't play at all, but I know McGillney was like he would play during the playoffs and stuff. Like that's how much he would play.
Wow. Now,
dude,
you mentioned Mario. Now I forget, was that Mario game where he destroyed the Rangers?
He destroyed me and then Richter.
You're right. And that was at MSG, right?
Yeah. So so I get the start. It's the 4th game, my 4th NHL game. So Pittsburgh's coming into Madison Square Garden. It's my first start at Madison Square Garden. They're going for the wins record without a loss in regulation. So, Mario sees me in net. So they've got motivation, right? They want to win the game. Rangers aren't going to make the playoffs. Mario sees me in net, and he must have been just licking his lips. He had 3 goals in the second period. Scored on me a breakaway. I didn't get into the third. He scored 2 more on Ricky. And then we ended up losing like 10-4 or something like that night. But hey, I'll tell you what, 2 years later, we were up 2-1 in Vancouver. And Mario got a breakaway on me and they stopped him. So suck on that, Mario.
Yeah.
You and your 600 goals.
Yeah, you showed him.
Sure showed him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Mario.
I think I was at that game actually. And Dancing Larry. Are you familiar who Dancing Larry is?
Yes. Why do I know Dancing Larry?
He's this guy who dances at the end of the third period. He goes,
yeah,
and he gets the crowd all, he's total, he's a little bit. Anyway,
the Garden's almost too nice now. They did a great job of the rest.
Yeah, they did, but it's kind of expanded
like
it too
that.
much, so
It's-
it's not as loud as it used to be. But
Yeah,
still,
it's
it gets
too nice.
loud.
It's almost too nice now, right? I mean, it's like the character back then was just how loud it was in the playoffs was ridiculous.
Well, the reason I bring up Dancing Larry, I knew Dancing Larry back then. Before he's got like a shaved head now.
Yeah.
And I think on the 9th goal, he just threw his beer from the blue seats onto the green seats, and some guy just took out his umbrella and went like this.
Oh, I love
Like
it.
he was expecting beer to be thrown. And
Oh, I
I'll
love
never
it.
forget that.
Well, that was a tough year for the Rangers. They didn't make the playoffs that year, right? Adam?
Yeah,
I think it was,
frustrations.
they did. They stopped playing for Roger, I think, a little bit. Like there was mess and all that. Like it was, and then and then Keenan came in the next year after that.
Now, was Roger Nielsen all that he was, purported to be? Kind of ahead of his time with a lot of things.
Yeah, Roger was one of the most kind, empathetic, nicest men. Like just such a kind person. Probably, almost too kind. Smart. When he sent you down to the minors, he couldn't even look at you because he felt so bad, right? Like that was just Roger. That was, I have a lot of respect for Roger. I really liked him. Just a good human being. And it was, I mean, and then you got Mike, then Keenan came in and everything kind of just changed. There's stories where Keenan he wanted to trade Ricky and Leachy or something. I don't know if it's a true story. You guys might know, but then
No, we've never heard that.
stepped in as like,
there's a book written about the 94 Rangers, and in the book, supposedly Keenan told Leach that he wanted to trade him he wanted him to trade for Chelios.
Yeah, I mean, thank God they didn't. But
right,
when Keenan came in, when Keenan goes into new teams, he would make an example of somebody. So he didn't like James Patrick. He was here for years, hadn't won anything. So during training camp, James Patrick was like with us in the Binghamton locker room, guys, and he took him right out of the big room. James Patrick is sitting at Rye Playland in the small dressing room, sitting like beside one of the guys. And it was kind of like, I felt really bad, but James handled it really well. He really did. Like he was professional. He didn't say anything, but it was like, why are you doing this?
Right.
It wasn't, because he was a great player. And then he ended up moving him and he ended up, whatever. But that's what Keenan did. Everywhere he went, he made an example of one guy to show, hey, I'm the boss here, right? And you got to give him credit. He won a cup.
He did something nobody else could do in my lifetime.
The pressure, the pressure. Like that's what I always say. Like with Mess and that, like watching what he did with the pressure in that city to win a cup. Like, man, it was incredible. To me, that's one of the greatest New York sports moments in history. I know there's tons other, but him hoisting the cup was just, for New York was just incredible.
And I believe that Keenan had Patrick on the Team Canada team too, and didn't play him at all.
Yeah,
so kind of
just didn't like him. He had things he had something against guys he felt played a long while and didn't win. Right, that was just him. And hey, you know what? He won a cup, and we got to see it. So
I mean, I'm sure James Patrick's doing
say
well.
what you will. Yeah.
So that's basically that. I mean, so you've been involved. I can't let you go because I got to talk about.
I could talk for hours with you guys.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I sure should have. The whole Peter Forsberg thing. First of all, the rules were ridiculous back then. I'm sorry. I don't like the shootout now. I mean, it's a skills competition. It's not a real just ending, but I understand that, they got to end the game sometime. I was happy when they just got ties back in the day. But this Peter Forsberg, and it's funny, you said you got over that pretty quickly. Or kind of quickly. Try to give me a look. Well, kind of refresh people's memory for our younger viewers here.
Well, yeah. So in '94, we got to the finals of the Olympics. This is before the Rangers won the cup, of course, in Lillehammer, Norway. And we got to the finals, and against Sweden, we were tied 2-2 after at the end of the game. Still tied. Played 10 minutes overtime, still tied 2-2. Went into sudden death shootout, right there, or the shootout. 5 shooters go each side, still tied 2-2, and then it went into sudden death shootout. So a guy named Magnus Svensson came down on me, and I tried to get as aggressive as possible on these guys because I thought the ice would be bad in front of me, maybe to lose the puck, try to get him to deke. So he tries to deke, he misses, and then we have a chance to win gold. Peter Nedved goes to shoot for us. He ends up missing the net on a goalie named Tommy Salo. Well, Tommy Salo, everybody should know.
Former Islander.
Yeah, former Islander, good goalie. And then that's when Forsberg stepped up, and he came down on me, 20-year-old kid. Did what they call the Forsberg today. Everybody, right? That's
right.
I helped make that famous. Come on.
Yes, you were part of the process.
Yeah, and then he came down, did and ended up scoring on me, and that's how we ended up with silver, and Sweden ended up with gold. Goddamn Peter Forsberg.
Son of a bitch.
No, but made me. Hey, you know what? I'm part of history, right? It's also
the whole stamp thing.
Yeah,
which I knew about it that time. Again, before any real social media is out there, I knew about it. And again, I think it feeds into that whole this guy's a dick. He's not. You don't want to see it. I mean, it's a historic moment. Yeah. Sweden's going up and down. They love it. I'm getting, Ulf Nielsen is calling me up. Team Sweden, and you say no. Here it is.
So I got photos of it. I got a giant photo. I give these away. I sign them. So yeah. So this is the yeah. So that's it right there. It's a blown up version.
But
so
you say no dice. I don't want my number on. Well, who wants a beat? This is like you're part of a home invasion, and they want to put you. I don't know. I can't think of a real good comparison.
Looking back, I mean, I'm like, why didn't I just let them do it, right? But I was a kid. I was 21 years old. I had an agent. They came at us saying they wanted to put my likeness on there. My agent was like, okay, well, you have to pay us, for that, for all that. And then, so they didn't even get back to us. They just changed the number on the jersey. So that's kind of how the story went, is that, I mean, for my likeness, my agent wanted them to pay us to use the likeness.
Well, I think that's
what happened.
Certainly reasonable.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought too, but the Swedes didn't like it. So they changed my number and my name.
Damn sweet.
But hey, I'm on a stamp. I'm on a goddamn stamp.
You also mentioned that a couple guys bailed out of that shootout. Hakan Lube, who he was a phenomenal player, both ends of the ice. Just a tremendous player for Calgary. I think it was it Mats Naslund?
Yeah, they didn't want to shoot.
They didn't want to shoot.
That's the story that I got. That's right. They were too nervous, and Peter Forsberg's like, he's been, at least it was a good player.
Right. I mean, you're talking about a Hall of Famer, one of the all-time greats.
And he was a lot tougher than people think he was. Like you couldn't. We had Tekin in the playoffs in Vancouver. We played Colorado, and we had Tiki on him the whole time, and he just gave it right back to him. Like you couldn't. Like he was a lot tougher than people think he was. Like he was. Not only could he play, but he gave it right back. And Swedes back then weren't like that, right? They were known as soft or whatever. Right. Man, he gave it right back, and he was tough. So, like I say, at least it was a good player, right?
Right.
Yes. And Essa he was a character in himself.
Yeah, he used to call me Red Hairs because he couldn't pronounce my name in English, which is Corey, right? Buddy? Hey, Red Hairs.
Syllables.
I love Tiki. What a good teammate, though. What a good teammate. I mean, we all do. We all love him.
And that was another thing, Corey, that I loved about the book is that, you had that, and you've talked about it here tonight with us. You had the Forsberg shootout, and the night Mario, scored 5 goals on you, and you're like, yeah, it happened. You don't shy away from it. You almost wear it like a badge of honor. Like two of the greatest players in the world did that to you. And you're like, it's great. I love being part of it.
Well,
I love that, the candor, the way you presented it.
You pack so much I wasn't with the Rangers that long, right? I mean, it was a few years and I was up and down, but you pack so much in such a small amount of time, right? Like, so I used to hang out with Kennedy, the VJ from MTV. We used to got to know her really well, and she's just the sweetest. But so the following September, I went to the MTV Awards because I took her to the Stanley Cup Finals, right? She took me to the MTV Awards. It was the one where Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley.
Oh, they kissed on stage. Kissed. Yeah,
I was at that one.
Wow,
that's the stuff in New York when you play for the Rangers. Like it's you guys didn't bring up I was a judge for the Miss Teen USA pageant.
Oh no, I didn't know that. I don't think that's in the book.
So that was with the Rangers. Yeah, that was with the Rangers. They were like, "You want to do this?" I'm like, "Sure." I was so far out of my element. That's where I met Kennedy, and we were just friends. But yeah, I judged the Miss Teen USA pageant, went to the MTV Awards, drank out of the Stanley Cup. Like, it packed a lot in a couple of years in New York. So lots of good memories.
Was that the same MTV Awards? Was that the MTV Awards that was after the Cup when Messier and Leach came out on the stage during the awards?
Yeah, probably would have been because it was the following September.
Because I remember watching that MTV Video Awards and just seeing Messier and Leach on stage at the MTV Awards and the crowds chanting, "Let's go Rangers." I'm like, you know what? This really was like one of the biggest sports stories of all time. If you've got the MTV crowd chanting, "Let's go Rangers," it really showed what a big deal that was.
Well, bigger than sports. Me how great it was and how sick I was at the time that I don't remember much. No, it's all good, man. It really was, right? I mean, yeah.
You remember the CNC Music Factory performance?
I think it was Green Day. The Stones played it. Like, it was so cool. And then I sat beside Carrot Top. Beside Carrot Top, yeah. And he had some smoking hot model beside him.
Of course.
I went with Barry Richter. Barry Richter was my date.
Barry Richter, good offensive defenseman.
Yeah, wow, just another good human being. Another good dude.
I find hockey players are the best human beings out of all the sports. I really do. They're so down to earth and just, plain talking. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, we try, right? I mean, yeah, we do. Most guys are pretty.
I mean, you get your salty guys. There are certain guys we've dealt with that have been a little bit salty, but hey,
You want to throw out some of those names, or?
Yeah, Matt Barnaby. He's a total
Barnaby was salty, really?
Well, he called the show drunk on the golf.
Oh, yeah, that's never a good idea.
Drunk, golf course, bad cell signal, and then just never called back.
That's never a good idea, Barney. Right?
Probably
because he played in Rochester when I played against him in bingo, and then for Buffalo, right? I mean, it's like maybe he's got some bad vibes or something. I don't know.
And your old boss was a no-show.
Who's my old boss? Who's that?
Neil Smith.
Neil Smith didn't come on, really?
Yeah.
That's too bad.
I lost Eddie.
Yeah,
we had him all booked, had it all set up. I for lack of a better term, I played footsie with Neil Smith for about 3 months trying to get him on the show. Finally got him to agree, and then he never showed up.
Yeah, that's too bad. I like both of those guys. I know both of them. I'm sorry. I'm going to put a call to them after.
That's all
bullshit. We'll get them on.
Well, Corey, it's been an honor and a pleasure talking to you. But before we let you go, can we get you to tell the $200 piss story? Because this literally is having laughing out loud. It's in the book, but can you tell that story before we let you go?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, in Russia, anything can happen, right? Anything. So we're downtown Moscow, and we're out one night. I had a couple beers, nothing too. But we're gonna walk back to the hotel, right? But halfway to the walk back to the hotel, I mean, I had a couple beers. I gotta take a leak. So I go behind a building, right? I mean, I'm a guy. That's what you do. And so as I'm finishing, a Volkswagen minivan pulls up. 6 guys jump out, grab me, throw me in the back of this van, and I'm with 2 other guys, and I won't name them, but they're stunned. Like, these guys are like henchmen. And it's dark, and I'm in the back of the van, and I see some guy lean forward. He's like, passport. And I'm sitting there going, holy shit, like I'm about to get kidnapped. I open my wallet because I know money talks in Moscow and Russia. He pulls out like 200 US, grabs it, throws me out of the van. I'm on the ground laying on my back. These guys jump in the van and they take off. And I'm just sitting there going, holy shit, I just about got kidnapped in Russia, in Moscow. Yeah. Best $200 I ever spent on a piss.
Wow.
Hopefully it never happens again.
That's what just happened to me.
Don't walk home from a bar at midnight in Moscow.
Yes. That's what
Lesson
just happened to
learned.
me. I got kidnapped and I had to pay $200.
It's a good $200 to spend.
Yes.
It was US too, right? I mean,
Oh, that's big time money.
so yeah, it was big time money.
So you were I was talking about Matt Barnaby. I heard you talking about how you had set it up. Who else? Sean
Smith.
Avery.
I mentioned
Sean Avery,
his
believe it
old
or not,
boss.
is a little bit salty.
That I can help you with.
I mentioned how Corey's old boss, Neil Smith, bailed on us too.
Oh yeah.
No,
Oh,
that's too bad. I like Neil. That's
he
too bad.
wanted to be paid. Do I look like a man who could deal out money to
Well,
anybody?
how much?
Well,
did
he was he responded at first and said, "I'm not going to be anyone's free guest." I'm like, well, I said, look,
Oh,
come on,
I don't know.
15 minutes, talk about 19, like, lifelong fan. Finally, he agreed to do it, but it was a lot of back and forth, and then finally, he just didn't even show up. And I'm like, you know what? Probably for the best.
Hey, I'm going to lose money on your show because I'm giving away a book. $35. It's coming out of my pocket.
Well, we offered. You were kind enough to.
No, I love doing
That autograph will mean to that kid. You don't know.
Right.
He's going to be telling all of Kitchener, Ontario, that he's getting an autographed copy of.
Should I send his
book.
address to Michelle?
Yeah,
Corey?
you can DM if you want. No, just DM it to me on the screen if you can, if nobody else can see it, and I'll just.
Yeah, let me see if I can get it for him while we're.
Or you can, whatever. I mean, or you can just send it to Michelle. That's fine.
I will mention some of the really, besides you being probably the best guest we've ever had, Chris Nyland. Awesome.
Yeah.
He was fishing when we interviewed him. This is before we did the video, and he said
He'd also had a few.
Yeah, he was bombed, and he said, "I gotta go back home, but let me call you back when I get home." And then called us from his house.
Yeah,
and continued the
all
interview.
over the earth. That guy, he really is. He's been through the ringer too. Like he talks about his story and all that, and man, his story is incredible. He was like attached to the mob at one point, wasn't he, or something? Like his story.
He didn't
the
share
feds
that
came
with
to
us.
his door and came and knocked on it. Like
I think he did mention something.
Yeah,
like
his
that.
story is nuts. Like it's and he's doing great. He's sober. He's clean. He's
That's
doing
good.
amazing. He's helping people. Yeah.
Theo Fleury, another guy who went through his problems.
A lot of guys. Yeah. But that just goes to show you, like, it doesn't matter, right? I mean, we all have our struggles, right? Like, that's what, ultimately just go get the help, man. Like, you don't have to be ashamed to get help. Like, and for men, like, I can still do all those manly things. You can still play hockey. You can still, shoot a gun, whatever you think is to be a man. I went and got help, right? It doesn't make you, it makes you a stronger man when you go get help, not a weaker one.
Now, do you think the climate has changed a lot now, or you think it's still difficult for men to?
It's getting better. It's our generation, though, that still struggles.
Yes.
Like our middle-aged man crisis suicide is off the charts. And we have to change that, right? Like we're putting the fire out right now. But that's why I'm hoping to educate our youth, and that is because, maybe it'll be different for them. Maybe they'll, if we can educate them and teach them to get help, they won't be in the crisis that we're in, at this point as middle-aged men, because it's our generation that struggles to reach out for help. And it's a strength. It's not a weakness.
Right. And it seems that now, and this is going on to a totally different subject, but now you hear mental illness brought up in the school shooting area now. They say, "Oh, it's not the guns; it's mental health." Now, I don't have my pay grade to figure what it is, and I really don't want to. I don't want to say.
You know what? If with mental health issues like are homeless and that, you're actually more likely to be a victim of crime than you are to cause crime. But and I think that goes beyond mental health when you have something like that, right?
Right.
I mean, but maybe I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, right? But everybody wants to blame mental health. Maybe the environment was part of it, where that person grew up. I don't know, right?
We don't know if it's the parenting. We don't
Obviously,
know.
something's wrong there, right? Something has gone.
In a way, I'm kind of glad that they're talking about it, but are they really talking about it, or is it just an answer to the guns?
The majority of people it's an answer so that they don't have to blame
do anything about the gun.
And I don't care. I don't care what side of the fence you're on, whether you want guns or not, right? It doesn't. I don't have a stake in that. But it's easier to blame mental health. Okay, well, I'd say 99% of the people I know that have mental health issues are some of the most kind, empathetic, unbelievable people you would ever meet, right? So I have sympathy and empathy for people with mental health issues, and I don't see that as the problem, but people are going to make up their own excuses, their own reasons.
Right. And I think
beyond my pay grade.
Right. But I do think it does.
I just sent Corey Jeff's address there. It's in the chat. You should be able to see it.
Awesome. Yep.
Okay. He said, don't forget to tell him I'm in Canada. I said, he's in Canada. I think he knows where Kitchener, Ontario
is. He may have heard of it.
I'm in Vancouver.
May have heard of it.
I know where Kitchener is.
The Kitchener Rangers, home of the Kitchener Rangers, ladies.
And the Walper Hotel.
The Walper Hotel.
I'm not even going to ask how you know that.
I forget how the conversation came up one night. We were talking about we had Jeff
go visit
into the show.
We were
going to go visit him. Right. We were talking about going to visit Kitchener. And we found this hotel, the Walper. And it said on their website that you can book a room with romantic enhancements. Well, we were at the very end of a show when things tend to get a little goofy. So we called the hotel live on the air, and we had this guy on the phone for like 10 minutes we made a comedy bit out of it. It was really funny.
What exactly are these romantic enhancements you have?
Oh my God.
And the guy was stuttering. He didn't know what.
That is fantastic.
Hunter, Jeff, the man, he's still lecturing. The man knows how to mail things in Canada. Yeah, he's 52 years old. He knows how to mail things.
Don't worry, we'll get it to him. That's how we used to have to talk to people, right? We had to mail stuff.
Yes, write letters.
We didn't have email and texting.
And you had to learn cursive in school. They don't even teach that anymore. Grumpy old man time.
I taught my daughter how to write cursive.
You did?
Yeah. Yeah, because I have very nice handwriting. I have beautiful penmanship.
Your handwriting ain't that great.
You've never seen it. Look at my handwriting's beautiful.
Oh, stop.
People ask me if I went to Catholic school.
Over here.
Anyway.
All right. I forgot Corey was here. We were just bickering amongst ourselves.
Right. We're just arguing on there. Corey, one of the last things you say in your book is if you come away from your book with only 3 words, those 3 words should be, I need help. But the 4 words actually stuck with me. And I'll tell you, it was one of the things I really took away from your book is when you say mental health is health. And that really stuck with me. And it's so true. You talk about how if somebody gets sick and they'll take medication, but if it's a mental problem, why is there such a stigmatism about taking Zoloft or one of the other drugs? And it really hit home with me. I mean, again, I've had my issues with anxiety, certainly not on what you call anxiety on steroids, but so I learned a lot from this book, not just about you, but about mental issues and I thought I learned a few things about myself too, because it was nice to know, boy, I'm not the only one who's ever driven down a winding highway and thought, well, what happened if I just turned the wheel and went off the road?
Well, that's all of us, dude. We've all had that. Yeah. I'm glad. I'm glad. And I tell people this, it's not a hockey book. It's a mental health book with hockey stories, right? It's mental health first. And I know, I'm blessed that I played and it's the platform, the game gave me a platform to be able to try and help other people. So I know we talked about a lot of stuff today, and I'm thankful for all of it because it's led me to where I am today, which I feel is my purpose, right?
Right. I mean,
purpose is to help other people. And that's all of us. I believe the purpose of life is we're here to help each other, and hopefully the book helps somebody. And you guys have been super kind today. Thank you so much.
oh, no problem.
I'm glad you enjoyed
You're
the
the
book.
kind one. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that saying goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I really feel like you, especially in this book, to wrap it all up, basically, is that the people that helped you along the way, they were put there in the grand scheme of things so you could be the person you are today.
Well, absolutely, right.
Whether it be Kennedy or Dave Babbitt, you mentioned in the book, certain people, even girlfriends and stuff like that.
Russ Cordell was a big one too.
Really?
Did Russ play with the Rangers for
Yes.
a little bit? I think he did.
Yep.
Yeah. Good friend of mine. But the only
A
thing
lot of
I
guys
hope
from that 94 Vancouver team wound up with the Rangers.
Yeah. No, that's right. They did, most of them, right? The only thing I hope is that the Rangers kill the Devils. That's all I care about right now.
Oh, I like the way he's talking.
Sorry, Devils fans. I know you're good
They
people,
don't. There's no devil fans.
The
They
hell
don't allow them in here.
They're not watching this show anyway.
Yeah.
Corey, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
This has been a great hour, and I would love to have you back sometime and just shoot the shit. This was fun.
Yeah.
Anytime, my friends. Yeah. Playoffs, I'll come on anytime. We'll start ripping on some other teams and some other goalies for
Oh,
sure.
yes.
And I'll thank Michelle again in the morning, and we'll reach out to her and maybe set something up in the future.
Would love that. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Jeff,
Take
I'll
care,
get
my
you
brother.
back. Don't worry.
Take care, Corey.
Take care, Corey.
Put your tooth back in.
Absolutely. Thanks,
Good night.
man.
That was absolutely one of my favorite interviews.
What a fantastic guy.
Oh,
Just
that was a lot of fun.
Yes.
And I can see him. He's still here. He's writing down Jeff's address. as we
well,
speak.
Jeff
Send it.
is probably.
I'm very happy Cutsy won that book.
Yes, I am ecstatic that he won. And
So,
boy,
Everybody enjoyed it. We're getting kudos from the chat room, which we like.
I love the fact that he threw that Ranger jersey on immediately.
How great was that?
That was the one of the right off the bat. He came in and hit a home run.
Absolutely. And then he took his tooth out. I mean,
come on.
That was absolutely one of my favorite interviews. So very and that's just like the way he comes off in the book too. Just approachable, real matter. I don't even know how to put it other than personable, real. Like he's a guy you'd want to just sit around and talk to for a couple hours.
Definitely, we definitely got to try to reach out to him during the playoffs.
Sure,
he wants to
absolutely.
trash goalies with us. I wanted to talk. I didn't get a chance to ask him out of Halak. He was involved with Halak,
and he mentioned, not only that, but he mentioned some deficiencies in Halak's game that he didn't think he could correct or something like that. And I thought about bringing it up, but I had so many other things.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't.
And I'm like, is he even going to come on here and like speak badly about a current Ranger? And I'm like, So I kind of left that. It's always nice to leave one on the to-do list because Halak probably won't be here next year, because it was also something he put in there about Ryan Miller that I thought was interesting.
Right.
He said he saw some things in Ryan Miller's game that would get exposed in a 7-game series, but I don't know. I don't know how he doesn't strike me as somebody who wants to be terribly critical of another player. You know what I mean?
Right. I think that's a typical player, especially if you're a nice, really nice guy. But he did want to know who we thought kind of like was a little bit shifty with us as far as what was the word I used? Salty. He wanted to know right away when I mentioned who was salty.
Right.
You got to give me something, then I'll, he owes us 2 salty
He was very good. I didn't even. I had an entire list of things I wanted to talk, but I couldn't ask for any better. There were so many things I didn't even get to, and I'm fine with that. Because there were some
popping up on 5 other podcasts pretty soon. So
right.
So get ready for that. But
he said we do a great job. I wonder if he looked into us. I wonder if he's watched. I wonder if he watched the whole.
I don't think he knows who the hell we are.
Well, look,
I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
But the PR girl reached out directly to me, so she had to find out about us from somewhere.
That's true. Maybe somebody up there likes us, Jim.
Maybe.
Well, I don't really know what to talk about. I mean, we could. I just want to kind of end the show here because it's like you can't get better than this. The Rangers got some games coming up.
Right.
What's the score? Can you give me an update? The scores and are there any meaningful games going on tonight? Are the Devils playing or some shit?
Let's see. We've got Buffalo and Florida are tied at 1 at the end of the second period. The Maple Leafs lead the Coats 2-1 at the end of the second period. Detroit beating Montreal 4-0 in the third. Carolina beating Ottawa 2-1. And the Devils are beating Pittsburgh 4-0. That's at the end of the second period.
Devils ahead.
And Blues over the Flyers 1-0. Nashville over the Knights 2-0.
So, do you think that there's going to be any change in the standings, or basically this is baked in? I mean, I know the Islanders are only 1 point ahead of Pittsburgh now with a game.
Devils are only 3 points behind Carolina with 5 games to go. Carolina actually has 6 games to go.
I also want to say, I just want to say, Sean McCaff, I almost cracked up 4 times during that interview because of your comments. By the way,
what's that?
Sean McCaff was making jokes. Hirsch wanted to know how to vote in the poll.
Yeah, Peanut has made an appearance back there. I got the window open because it was so nice here today.
Petroni's reporting that the Panthers will leapfrog Pittsburgh and the Islanders if they win tonight.
Nice. Good.
I think Buffalo is done. I mean,
if the Islanders miss the playoffs, that would certainly be a cherry on the Rangers Sunday, right?
Oh my God, I would love that. I would love that. But what is Pittsburgh doing? I gave the score. Oh, they're losing 4-0. We can check in on Joey. Oh boy, Joey's still at $0 for his graduate work. Joey.
Right, for his doctorate.
Yes. So can't get better than that, folks. Really. What a wonderful
I'm glad it went well. I got to admit, I was a little nervous. I don't usually get nervous, but it's a sensitive topic, and it's not our specialty.
Yeah, I mean, we're not a deep show,
Right. But at the same time, I don't want to be a buffoon when we have a guest who's
I think we did okay. I think we did very well.
I think we did. I think we handled it very well.
I think
I was very nervous about this. I was very nervous. And my own anxiety. I got anxiety. I didn't want to tell him I got anxiety just talking, just having you on the show. It gives me anxiety.
Well, one thing I did pick up as we were recounting these things, he didn't really want to go there. He even said, he hasn't read the book. I don't think he's into reliving this shit, even though he wrote a book about it.
Right. You're right. It almost seemed like that this was a step, like a therapy step. And then once he was done, once he got to the end, that's it. That part of his therapy was over. You know what I mean?
Like Michael, you're still buffoons, but you did well. Thank you.
Well, yeah, and I could live with that. But again, this wasn't a guest we sought out. They sought out us. So I wanted to, I wanted to be put on a nice show for the, because who knows? Maybe she's got another player that's going to write a book that might want to come on a Rangers show and promote it.
That's right. We're hobnobbing. Peter McDougal. That name is really old. Not that old. He's a McDougal. That's like 78 or something.
And Eddie, he uttered the phrase we all love to hear: "Once a Ranger, always a Ranger."
Yes.
In his mind, he's still a Ranger. I mean, he played for Vancouver, he played for Dallas, he played overseas. He's a Ranger. In his, at least for an hour with us. In his mind, he's a Ranger, right?
That's right. Exactly. Well, disappointed he didn't mention Roman Ender, but that's for another time.
Yeah, right up there, Peanut.
Peanut looks okay.
He's comfortable. I don't know how the hell he's a big cat. I don't know how the hell he's comfortable.
My cat's huge too.
The minute that window's open, man, he's up there. Yeah. I don't know how he's comfortable.
I don't know. So who the Rangers got upcoming?
Tampa.
Ryan Lindgren's coming back, they tell me.
That's the word on the street, is that Ryan Lindgren will be back tomorrow.
He did mention Potvin sucks, which I didn't know if I should go my opinion on that, but
I thought instantly I was going to ask him the first time you heard that. Did you have any idea what it meant? And then we just moved on to something else.
Right. So the return of 55 is Patty.
Because he probably thought, what do they got against Felix?
Yeah, I thought Felix Potvin was good.
Right. Tampa, St. Louis, the last of these dreaded back-to-backs. And, I think it was a great idea to schedule a Wednesday night 7:30 game at home and then make them fly halfway across the country to play the very next night in St. Louis. Thank you again, NHL. But then after that, they get a day off. They go to Columbus. They get a day off. They're home for Buffalo. 2 days off. They finish the season against the Toronto St. Pats at home, and then the playoffs. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Sunday, April 16th or Monday 17th. The playoffs start.
We'll I've said it all year. Sean's asking, you think he had sex with Kennedy? He claims in the book he didn't, but I think he did. I think he's just being a gentleman about it. NHL playoffs, according to Cutter, start April 17th.
That's what? Excuse me. That's Monday.
Monday. And my summation is Shesterkin's ready. I'm ready. I think the team will go into the show again. We'll see where the chips fall where they may. I'm not losing my crap over the how they finish. I mean, you want to see them do well, continue their winning ways, but I'm not living and dying if they lose to Buffalo again. I
just don't want anybody getting hurt.
That's the most important thing. And and in closing, I feel just rest Lindgren. Let him come back like the last 2 games or 3 games. So, because
thanks, Dr. B.
Yes, thank you, Dr. B. So that's the story, Morning Glory. You heard it all and more.
I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight.
Yes, I did, and I hope if you are suffering with this stuff, just reach out for some help, man.
And I highly encourage everybody to read the book, because even if you're not suffering, chances are you know somebody who is, and maybe this will help you understand a little bit more what they're going through. That's about all I can say. And like I said, that he tells you at the end of the book, if you've read this book and you come away with 3 words, let it be, I need help. And that's true. That is true. But the 4 words, like I said, the 4 words that I came away with was mental health is health. It's just as important as taking care of your lungs, your kidney, your brain. It really is.
My biceps.
Your biceps, your triceps, your quads, your pecs, your core. And unfortunately, it's not really until the last 10, 15 years that we've come to realize that. So,
yeah. Howie, I'll PM you about this thing I experienced with your Facebook account. But anyway, Jim, always a pleasure. I had a great time being serious, laughing. The whole bit was 100% total awesomeness.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Make sure you click the bell, subscribe to the Blue Shirt Underground channel. Let us know, let you know when we're on the whole bit. Follow us on Facebook. And we will see you guys soon, probably early next week.
Sounds good, my brother.
All right. Take care, everybody. Eddie, always a pleasure. We love you guys. Thanks for your support. Good night, everybody.
Ugh.